Okay, guys, welcome back to the channel. We got a couple things for you here. Red Panda Koala just dropped a link to another channel called Spaced Out Radio. So I'm going to have that stuff linked down below. Go check out Red Panda Koala. It puts out great content. And this one here's an interview that Spaced Out Radio did with John Ramirez. John Ramirez talks about the 2027 speculation that he has. And and more. He clarifies a few things as well. So let's get into it and watch that. And then I have a second one for you too. Another guy by the name of Jordan Crowder. And he talks about John Ramirez's interview on that particular podcast as well. And he kind of breaks things down for us as well. So let's check out those two things, you guys. Stay till the end and then hear my comments. And you guys, let's check it out.
What can you tell us about 2027? And thank you for your courage to discuss the truth.
All right. You're welcome. I will say this. There were some American government officials. They're assisting in the disclosure process behind the scenes. Back in the September of 2022, they invited me to meet them in Washington, D.C. And these officials requested anonymity, which I will honor. I can say this. They were not CIA officers. So during the course of the meeting, which was held in a SCIF, it's a sensitive compartmented information facility, SCIF, one of the officials mentioned, I didn't mention, one of the officials mentioned that the year 2027 emerged in the various social media venues. And I was asked about my knowledge of that year. And I said, yep, I acknowledged that, it seems to loom large within the channeler community. Spiritual consciousness communities, they're the ones talking about 2027. And I suggested that why don't you research what Anjali Schultz and Chris Bledsoe have stated about these future years. And keep in mind, this is 2022, so 2027 was 5 years away. And I was pressed for my own personal opinion. And I reiterated, I defer to the channelers. I don't know what's going to happen in 2027. The channelers seem to be talking about it. I did say that I referenced Louis Elizondo, told him that in 2022, that same year that I talked to these folks in the SCIF, stated that we should engage in a hobby for 5 years and all will come out by then. So I gave that out. And 5 years from 2022 is 2027. So maybe it's some kind of disclosure timetable. But when they further pressed me for my personal opinion, and I said, I personally hope that these NHI beings might make their presence known by then, that they control disclosure, not humans. They can show up anytime they want to. They chosen not to, but suppose they do show up in 2027, then it behooves the American government to start disclosing everything it knows about NHI and their technologies now. Let's use these 5 years to start moving forward. Otherwise, if you don't disclose anything and they show up on their own accord, that's an uncontrolled, unpredictable shock to the system, and that would be disastrous. That's the story behind 2027. I never said that we're being invaded by ETs in 2027. They're going to land in 2027. A lot of bullshit came out in social media by these social media influencers, but that was completely untrue. It was just a discussion about what I conveyed from the channelers, quoting Lou Elizondo, and my personal hope that the government would start disclosing before they show up on their own, and that's 2027.
All right, guys, here's John Crowder. Now, this is his take on everything, and he kind of breaks some things down, and he talks about a little bit more stuff than what John Ramirez was speaking about. He even goes into alien abductions, and anyways, check it out.
Hey, friends. So what do Germans, alien abductions, and the year 2027 have in common? Well, according to Joe Ramirez, which is one of the most interesting people in the whole ufology world, he's a retired CIA agent who had a lot of experience dealing with the phenomenon. He says that the CIA has given him pushback when he talks about those three subjects and has basically told him to can it, to stop talking about those three things. And the three things are the Germans, specifically the inward Germans from the World War II and their influence over CIA. And then the second one is alien abductions, because he said they told him there's criminal activity that happened and they don't want him talking about it. And the third is the year 2027. He's not allowed to talk about the year 2027. Okay, let's break this down because, there are snakes out today. This is so interesting because let's start with 2027. Several people, of notability like Chris Bledsoe and other people have said, even Lou Elizondo, have talked about the year 2027 as being some sort of pivotal, transformative year with the whole disclosure thing where something happens. And several people have talked about a mass sighting, some sort of a, UFO alien kind of presentation that basically erases any doubt that we are alone and being monitored, interacted with, possibly manipulated, guided, all those fun words. That's supposed to happen in 2027. According to Chris Bledsoe, it happens on Easter, the whole, Star Regulus and the gaze of the Sphinx and that kind of stuff, right? That's when the lady comes down, exposes the whole deal. But John Ramirez, the CIA agent, was told by the CIA not to talk about that year, right? So why would the CIA care about a year? Why are you not allowed to talk about an entire year? Which just adds a little more credibility to the fact that something might be popping off in a couple years. Anywho, let's go to number 2, which was the N-word Germans and their influence, specifically said their influence over the CIA. And we already know with Operation Paperclip that a lot of the N-word Germans came over to America after World War II and founded things like the NSA and NASA and CIA and everything. So that's all well known. But what he's talking about is their influence. So basically alluding to the fact, like I've talked about before, and many other people have too, that they didn't just come over here and start working in these agencies. They actually are basically running our country. We are basically Germany 2.0, and that, we already know, like von Braun and all these, big time, amazing engineers and rocket scientists and, scientists and doctors and everybody came over here and have had a huge influence on American culture and our dominance in the world. Now, this leads into number 3, which was the UFO abductions, alien abductions, that there was criminal activity that happened here. Now, this is super interesting because if this was alien abductions, meaning these are just aliens coming from Zeta Reticuli, another snake, man. If these are just aliens coming from some other planet and abducting people for their own little, whatever purposes, just because they might like anal probes, I mean, who doesn't? Then why would the CIA be saying, keep a can on that? And if you've noticed, like the military, even going back, I mentioned Lou Elizondo and all these whistleblower people that talk about all this stuff, they always, every time, just conveniently miss and skip out and skip over abductions, which is a big deal because anecdotally, a lot of people have been abducted. And you would think some sort of force coming into people's bedrooms and taking them, forcibly out of their sleep, that's kidnapping in my world, and that should be frowned upon. But for some reason, the government doesn't seem to want to acknowledge or talk about that. And John Ramirez came out and said they specifically told him, don't talk about alien abductions because there was criminal activity that happened. Well, so you're saying the aliens are criminals, or you're saying these weren't aliens, which Stephen Greer and other people have talked about before, that the alien abductions are actually CIA abductions. And if you think about the whole time travel aspect of the, we've talked about before, the time traveling inward Germans, that, once they mastered anti-gravity back in the 40s and 50s, gravity is linked to time because it's time-space continuum. So once you manipulate space, you also manipulate time, which means that these early UFOs, like the Diaglock and things like that, were actually time machines inherently. So if you think about the fact that these Nordics and these kinds of beings that are tied to the Germans from after the war, like that, if they had time travel, that if you think about abductions this way, think about John Connor in Terminator 2. Remember that amazing movie, Terminator 2? So the Terminator from the future was going back to try to kill John Connor as a kid. So this kid, John Connor, was like, why are these freaking people coming to try to kill me? He's like, I haven't done anything wrong. And they're like, well, you haven't yet, but you will. So think about if these Nordics are actually these time traveling Germans, that they would know things in the future, and these abductions, people are trying to figure out why are specific people targeted and that kind of stuff. Well, maybe it's because there's something that these people are going to do, but they haven't done yet. And the abductions are some form of monitoring or manipulation or something. I don't know. But that would explain the whole criminal activity thing, because then in that case, these wouldn't be aliens doing this. They might be under the guise of aliens, just like people say that the Greys are often seen with the Nordics, but the Nordics are in control. There's like a hierarchy. So the Greys kind of do the dirty work and the Nordics stay back on the ship and sort of remote control. Well, maybe that's what's going on here. So there is a criminal activity going on because these aren't aliens doing this. The Nordics in this case are humans. They're time traveling Germans. Holy shit. So many snake. I'm serious. Like, it's summertime, so they're all coming out. But they like to lay on the trail because a little bit of sun hits it, and they like to bake in the sun. But there's like all these branches everywhere, you know? So like everything kind of looks like a snake, you know? So you're just kind of walking, and all of a sudden the branch moves. And you're like, oh, that's not a branch. But see, like, they all kind of look like branches and like snakes until one scurries away. Anywho, off topic, but I'm trying to watch where I'm going while talking to you about time traveling Germans, alien abductions, and the year 2027. So much going on, guys. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Have a beautiful day. Peace.
All right, guys, that's it for that one. Let me know what you guys thought. There was a lot here, actually, man. What do you guys think of John Ramirez? Do you think he's credible? He comes from a credible background. He was part of the government. I think he was a CIA or something like that. He was told not to speak about 2027. He was also told not to speak about alien abductions, and it could be illegal, you know, so things were happening there. Jordan here, he breaks it down a little bit more. What do you think of Jordan? I don't know much about this guy. First time I've ever seen his content. So, but he does make some claims and stuff like that. And John Ramirez made some astonishing claims as well. I don't know. This is becoming a riddle that I just cannot solve. We're all over the place. We're over here, then we're over here, and you think you're onto something, then they come to find out that you're like, what the hell? Anyways, you guys, let me know what you guys think, because I want to hear from you. You guys are the most important people to me, so I want to hear your opinion. Give me your thoughts down below. You guys like, subscribe, share with your friends. Peace out.